Dicen que cuando mencionan su nombre suele aparecer, y en Lucha Libre Online lo hemos mencionado bastante en las últimas semanas, de TNA para el mundo representando a Escocia. Mencionamos su nombre, because we all believe in Joe Hendry, señoras y señores. Joe Hendry llega acá a Lucha Libre Online. Sir, it's an honor to have you. Scottish finest, basically. One of the top tier stars all around the world. The most viral superstar currently in the whole wrestling industry. Honored to have you. How are you doing today?
I like that intro. Ross, can we get this guy to just announce me wherever I go? Whenever I walk into any Starbucks or Walmart or whatever, I want this guy announcing me. I love the introduction. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It's an honor for us to have you. A lot of things have been happening in your career as of lately. You are not a overnight success, as many people describe on the internet. There's a lot of hard work behind Joe Hendry, the music, the athlete behind everything. But I wanted to start about talking about TNA. Obviously, you guys have a big show coming this weekend. Florida is a place, Tampa to be specific. I'm going to say this in Spanish. El 2 y el 3 de agosto, 2 y 3 de agosto, eso ya, señoras y señores, son viernes y sábado, ya estamos ahí al lado. Vamos a estar disponibles con TNA directamente en el Florida State Fairgrounds en Tampa. Hay mucho boricua en la zona, hay mucho mexicano, hay mucho latino y tienen que darse la vuelta para entender y saber por qué TNA está tan caliente y está creciendo tan rápido en el mundo. Y Joe Hendry va a estar presente, que ha sido una gran atracción en este proceso. Sir, you're going to be a part of TNA's event of Florida. You're basically now a natural in Florida. We're going to be discussing this as well. First of all, how does it feel to have the opportunity to be a part of TNA, a company that was so popular back in the UK? It was the #1 company for a lot of time. Well, you know, during that period of time, now you have the opportunity to be one of the top performers. How does it feel, sir?
First of all, I need to learn Spanish. What a language. I do actually, I want to learn like at least one other language, and Spanish will be first. It will be first. Again, love the introduction. Because there's just so many people in so many different countries speak it, right? I think to myself, I'm like, if I could learn Spanish, it would help me in so many different countries, right? So anyway, I'm sorry, I digress. I'm interested in the language. So you know what, guys, I want some tips on how after this. I want some tips on how to learn the languages as best I can as quickly as possible. Yes, it's a huge honor to be a part of TNA. It's massive. It's TNA was the company I chose. And I had other opportunities at the time that and avenues I could have gone down, but my heart and my gut, I always trust my gut, always trust my gut. And my gut told me that TNA wrestling was going to be the home for me. And, it's been an amazing journey. We're working really well together. I think that we've collaborated on some amazing things. I think right now we've got an opportunity to do historic business. We're doing things that are unprecedented in the business. Like, can you imagine a situation in previous years where, like, that must be the first time I can think of that a segment for a TNA wrestler on NXT is promoted 3 times on Raw the night before. And so I'm thankful to TNA and WWE. I'm thankful to TNA for being open to helping me grow my brand as much as possible so I can then do great business for TNA wrestling. I'm thankful to TNA for collaborating with WWE because we're now in a situation where I'm able to appear on TNA wrestling. I'm able to appear on NXT. I'm training at the Performance Center right now. And I'm still able to do indie bookings and signings as well. So TNA are giving me a lot of opportunities. It's been a very collaborative. I think it's a process, and it's a good example of business where everybody wins. If you think about it, the wrestlers win because we're getting all this exposure. And WWE wins because it's good for the ratings, it's good for views. TNA wins because our stars are getting exposure, which is helping us sell more tickets, and the fans are winning because we're in a situation where absolutely anything can happen at any time. So this is awesome. Thankful to our management. I have a great relationship with TNA management. And I've been welcomed with open arms to WWE as well. So don't get me wrong. If you look at my schedule, I have to be one of the busiest wrestlers in the world right now. Training at the PC full time. Like I say, I'm training at the PC full time, doing media, doing TNA, NXT, Indies, signings. You don't know how many times this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for me. And I've been working for this for a long time. I've been consistent for a long time, and it's time to go. When it's time to go, you have to prove that you're exactly who you say you are. And that's what I'm doing.
Brilliant, man. The busiest wrestler in the world. Actually,
one of. Cody Rhodes has got to be busier than me. He has to be.
well, but that's
maybe I'm number two. Maybe I'm number two.
Crazy schedule. Pedro has a question about Josh Alexander, the walking weapon, man.
We saw in Slammiversary the biggest pop of Joe Hendry's career. We saw he was just too close to get that TNA World Championship. And we never thought that the walking weapon, Josh Alexander, was going to do that low blow and causing you the big match. How is your mindset now that you have that TNA championship just slip away thanks to, let's say, it like a screw job of Josh Alexander?
Listen, I've never been the guy that gets things the first time. I'm just not the guy that goes on some crazy winning streak and just, dominates on the first instance. That's never been the case in my life. I've had to scratch and claw for everything that I've had. Before I won a National Amateur Wrestling Championship, I had to lose the British Championship maybe 5 times. You know what I mean? I maybe had that. I maybe had 5 championship losses before I won my first national championship. I, had countless tryouts and, runs that didn't pan out and things like that before I finally got an opportunity. I've never been the guy that got things first time, but I've never been the guy to give up. If there's one thing, you do not bet against Joe Hendry. There's a lot of people who are upset, tearful that Joe Hendry is becoming as successful as he is. But you know what? That's if you're smart and you look at history and you go, oh, actually, Joe Hendry's never going to stop. Like he is just going to keep coming and he's going to make this happen. If you're Josh Alexander, I'll tell you the reason he kicked me in the nuts is because he had to, because, I'm the whole act right now. And that brings tears to Josh's eyes. You know what I mean? So he needs to do things like that to stop me from getting my goals. But you know what? Good for him. I'm going to get my retribution, but I will not take my eyes off the prize. At the end of the day, just all these guys do not want me to win the world championship, but they don't want it to happen. But I will will it to happen. It is going to happen. I am the face of TNA wrestling. Again, all due respect to Nick Nemeth, one of the best in-ring performers to ever lace up a pair of boots. Unfortunately for him, I am the face of TNA wrestling. He knows it. The fans know it. Management know it. And I want that title. End of story. Nick is, and now here's the thing. Here's what's interesting. Nick is not only is one of the best professional wrestlers to ever lace up a pair of boots, he's also a fantastic amateur wrestler as well. So when I'm talking, don't think that I'm taking any of these guys lightly. As much of a pain that Josh Alexander is, the guy's talented. They're all talented, but I'm Joe Hendry.
Jorge.
Hey, Joe, it's a pleasure to be here talking to you. I just want to ask you because everyone's believing Joe Hendry, even Jeff Hardy. So how does it feel to share the ring with a legend like Jeff Hardy, Matt Hardy? And it was a great moment when the Hardy Boys returned to TNA. So how does it feel that even the legends believe in Joe Hendry?
In the space of 1 week, so it was that happened. Like I think maybe in the span of a week that appeared on NXT as well. And I remember when Jeff returned, I was just like, "What is going on? What is my life right now?" When Jeff Hardy came out to the ring, and it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I got hooked on professional wrestling in my teenage years, but I did have some of the figures when I was younger. and I had maybe 10 figures, and the Hardy Boys were two of them. You know what I mean? So it's like it's pretty awesome. But one thing I am excited for is the Hardys are awesome, and they're really into what I'm doing. And I'm really into what they're doing, and I think we could do something fun if we work together. You know.
Business-wise, a lot of things has been happening. TNA got sold out at the Montreal Verdum's Auditorium for Slammiversary, 4,000 people, great TV ratings. Everyone is more interested in the product. There's a lot of crossover coming, but not just from WWE. We've seen as well AAA wrestlers from Mexico coming to TNA often.
Yeah.
How does it feel to have the opportunity to be in an era that's completely different from everything else? Like, there's a collaboration between brands. There's an actual good atmosphere, healthy one inside the wrestling industry. You've been inside this industry for almost 11 years. How does it feel to have the opportunity to perform in such a prestigious era, to say it that way?
So I'm gonna preface this by saying there's a bodybuilder called Tom Platz, right? And he used to go up against Arnold and things like that. And he would say, when he's going up on that stage, he wasn't trying to impress the judges. He was saying, this is bodybuilding according to Tom. And that always really stuck with me, because I was like, if you're really passionate about something, that's kind of how you have to approach it. So you have to say, if I'm approaching a professional wrestling, I'm saying, this is professional wrestling according to Joe, right? So I've been sticking to that and just flying under the radar and doing my act, and I believed in it. I believed it, for pun intended, believed. I knew that one day wrestling would come back around, and we're in that spot right now where the focal point is characters and stories and moments, you know what I mean? And I feel like I'm so glad I had faith to stick to my guns in what I believed professional wrestling was and what it could be. I feel like we're in an era now that is very supportive of what I'm doing, whereas the era that we were just in was a completely different one. So I'm very glad that I just continued to do what I was passionate about, and I had some very supportive fans along the way who felt the same way, and it does feel awesome. And not only that, we're in a situation where anything can happen. Again, who would have thought 4 months ago, 5 months ago, that you would have TNA and WWE collaborating together and talent going to both shows and all this excitement? It's just, wrestling is at its best when anything can happen. That's it. You know what I mean? You need that. All our favorite TV show, they have those moments where you go, oh, wrestling needs that. That's what wrestling is. Wrestling is about moments. And you know what? This is my theory on it. Life is hard. Things are expensive out there. People have families to support. We're busting our asses all week, every week. In our entertainment, we want some moments that just go, whoa, and take us out of the difficulties of life. And that's what pro wrestling is for me.
Amen. Pedro.
Speaking of big moments, we saw you, Hendry, do the big debut on NXT. We saw you in the Battle Royal. We saw you tag team with Trick Williams. But now you were so close to the new NXT champion, Ethan Page, and now you're working with the Gallus Boys, the same Gallus Boys that did practice The Rock ready for WrestleMania 40. How can you talk to me about working with all those guys on NXT?
So, this is not the part where I say, oh, working with Gallus has been great. They just cracked their guitar over my back. They just wasted a perfectly good Fender acoustic guitar over my back. So you're not going to hear anything great about my experience of fighting them in the ring. I will say this, they're in the position they are in for a reason. I think that the amount of people in prominent positions from Scotland speaks to the training that we had. Most of us came from the same training school. Most of us were trained by Big Dame, Killian Dane, and that, yes. You look at the amount of people, so there's There's Joe Coffey, there's Mark Coffey, there's me, there's Piper Niven, Nikki Cross, Killian Dane, Big Damo himself. You know, it's like that was like one or two classes from the same training school. So, and again, if there's lots of training schools in Scotland. So as well as that, you've got Isle of Dawn as well. So from a different training school was Alba Fire and Wolfgang, and you know what I mean. There's just so many. And apologies for Drew, of course, but he was earlier, you know. But if you look at the amount of, you know, they say Gallus boys on top, but if you look at the amount of Scottish wrestlers on top, Scotland is hugely overrepresented in professional wrestling. Like, let me just Google something real quick, right? I'm going to say population of Texas, right? Here we go. 30 million people in Texas. There's like 6 million people in Scotland. So think about the amount of wrestlers you have from Scotland, which is, you know, a sixth the size of Texas, you know?
Brilliant, man. Jorge.
It's pretty impressive.
It is. Jorge, you're muted, my brother.
Sorry, my bad.
I'm muted.
No. Me.
Was
It was me. Sorry. And we know something very important. It's the entrance of a wrestler the moment he goes to the ring. So for you, what is the inspiration on the music and the inspiration on the wrestling? Maybe some wrestler and some musician you believe on it.
The Rock was the reason I got into the business. So here's the thing. If you want to explain to someone what wrestling is, you can show them a Rock segment and you go, that's what wrestling is. If I ever needed to, when I was younger, if I ever needed to explain to anyone why I liked wrestling, I would show them a segment with The Rock and they go, oh, not for me, but I get it type thing. A non-fan would say that, but they would immediately understand why. That's how good The Rock was. You could show someone who was a non-fan, and even though they weren't a fan of wrestling, they would immediately understand why you liked wrestling. So in all my segments, I try to make them funny for everybody, even non-wrestling fans. And I get a lot of messages from people who say like, hey, my partner doesn't really like wrestling, but they like your video, or, you know what I mean? Like my kid likes your songs or whatever. So that I've tried to create content that people will like outside of wrestling, and The Rock was the inspiration for that. And obviously The Rock's guitar segments are the inspiration for stuff I've been doing. I've been doing those guitar segments. I did one of them in 2013, but it was inspired by The Rock. The Rock is the reason I got into the business. For me, the wrestler I try to emulate the most is John Cena. Like I said, I've told this story a million times, so I'll just summarize it. But when I was 15, I had a really great fan interaction with John Cena. And that really inspired me as well. So I would say The Rock and John Cena. And in terms of music, I reverse engineered the song for what I wanted to happen. I wanted people to clap. I wanted them to wave their hands. I wanted the first section to be high energy and fast. And then I wanted the second section to be epic. You know, a lot of work went into it, but clearly the work has paid off. It's paid dividends.
Man, for time purposes, I gotta say something in Spanish to wrap it up before Ross. Right. So, este viernes y este sábado, TNA va a estar disponible en los Florida State Fairgrounds directamente en Tampa. No se lo pueden perder por nada del mundo. TNA Wrestling tiene los boletos. Ustedes tienen que ser parte de la historia. Está Joe Hendry en acción, está Josh Alexander, está Nick Nemeth, Ryan Nemeth, grandes superestrellas. Las Knuckles le están metiendo fuego. Giselle Shaw, Masha Slamovich, Jordan Grace. TNA está en su punto más caliente y usted tiene que ser parte de esto este viernes y este sábado en los Florida State Fairgrounds directamente en Tampa. Y el tema de Joe Hendry, I Believe in Joe Hendry, está disponible en todas las plataformas de audio, Spotify, Apple Music, iTunes. En todos lados usted tiene simplemente que descargarlo y creer en Joe Hendry. Joe, before we go, last but not least, I have a question. There's a lot of people in this list. There's Kenny, there's James McFadden, there's Jesus freaking Christ. There's a lot of footballers from Scotland that has caused a lot of impact. Andrew Robertson, for example. Who is Joe Hendry's favorite football player from Scotland?
Do you mean soccer or?
Soccer.
So, yeah. So just, I have to make sure. I know it's football. Thank you for calling it football. Yeah, when I'm here in America and I said I mentioned football. They literally have no concept that it's called football, and you know, in the UK. But I don't follow football.
What?
I don't follow football. I wish I did. My family love it. My family are all crazy about it. But yeah, I just don't follow football.
We left with a shocker on the rule.
Yeah.
Scottish man.
I wish I did. I wish I loved it. I just watch it and I'm just like,
it's like a Puerto Rican who's not dancing.
Dude, I don't get it. I just don't. I wish I did. I wish I did. My family are all Heart of Midlothian fans, but you know, power to them.
Damn, man.
If I had to support a team, I'd say Heart of Midlothian because my family do. But you know, that's it, man. I'm a wrestling guy. Wrestling and MMA. That's it.
So we all believe in Joe Hendry. Joe, it's been an absolute honor to have you here at Lucha Libre Online. Thank you for everything that you do for the wrestling industry and for putting us in the mainstream even higher on BBC, on ABC, wherever you've been. Like, you've been everywhere. So we're honored and humbled for the opportunity, sir. Wishing you success. Y este viernes y este sábado, todo el mundo para los Florida State Fairgrounds en Tampa. Nos vemos. Michael Morales, Pedro Vega, Jorge Cervera y todos creemos en Joe Hendry. Hasta la próxima.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you,
Take
sir.
care.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you.